Welcome to the Festival of Storytellers.
I can't tell you how excited I am to be on right now. It's been a couple of weeks of excitement, getting prepared, and I've done a lot of things in my life, but this has got to be close to the top.
Thank you, Reader's Magnet, and thank you, John, for putting this forth and taking the chance on us authors in presenting this out to the world.
I've enjoyed this immensely, Joanne.
Ellie, so have I. Thank you for who you are, and thank you, Reader's Magnet. You all are beautiful, and you've worked so very hard, and we are blessed.
We are.
I thank everybody that's involved with this process, because we know writers need readers and writers need publishers. We thank Reader's Magnet and everybody that's involved. I love Reader's Magnet. They say, we share your stories with the world.
Good afternoon, and welcome back to all of you who were with me for last week, and a warm welcome to those who are just seeing me and being with me for the very first time. My name is Margaret Krivchenia, and I am the author of Evermore, my first adult novel, and also the Four Cousins Mystery Series. It is a series of 4 books, and book 1 is The Ghost of Canyon Camp. 2, which we're going to talk about today because it's Halloween and I thought this would be kind of fun, is The Haunted Lighthouse. The 3rd book is The Secret of the Broken Arrow Mine. And the fourth one is a Christmas mystery called The Case of the Mysterious Mansion. Now, throughout this week, I'm going to be talking about these, and I'm going to be returning to Evermore because this is so near and dear to my heart. It was just published in July. I've been publishing books for the past 6 weeks, or 6 years, I should say. And I just want to tell you that it's just amazing to me that I've ended up being an author. I grew up in Michigan and graduated from the University of Michigan with a degree in counseling. I was a counselor, I was a teacher, I was a voice major, and then we moved to Florida, and I've been here now for many, many years. And when I retired, I started being an author. And it started out by telling stories to my grandchildren. They are the inspiration for my novels, especially the Four Cousins Mystery Series. My family is the inspiration for Evermore, my mother, father, and grandparents. And I'll be telling you a little bit about this in the days to come. But for right now, I want to give you a little background on the Four Cousins Mystery Series, since this was the very first group of novels that I started. And they are for ages 8 to 12. And as I said, they were the inspiration, my grandchildren. So I want to tell you a little bit about them, since they are the main characters in the Four Cousins Mystery Series. The first is Kate. She's the oldest. She's the girl in charge. She is the one that all the cousins look up to. Her sister is Emma. And Emma has a very special gift. Emma has a great intuition, and she can sense when there's danger or when something is going to happen, which, as the stories progress, proves very beneficial to all the four cousins. They tend to depend on her, and they listen to her, and they come to believe her. Harrison and Parker are brothers. They're the cousins of Kate and Emma. Harrison is only 2 months younger than Emma, and they are very close. They are kind of buddies together and co-conspirators, if you want to say that. They're detectives together. Parker's the youngest, and Parker is full of enthusiasm in life, and he'll do anything his older brother and cousins do because he loves to be involved in all the fun and adventures. So the genre that I chose for the Four Cousins Mystery Series is detective and adventure. It's for youth. And one of the reasons I chose that is because when I was growing up, my house was filled with books. It was like a library. My mom, you love to read, and so every holiday, whether it be birthday or Christmas, I always received books. And so I went through all of the Nancy Drew stories. The Hidden Staircase. I went through the Hardy Boys. I went through Eight Cousins, which I loved. And so I was raised on books. And as I got older, of course, I got into Jane Eyre. I got into the Brontes, and I have never stopped reading. A very eclectic reader. I read all kinds of books. And that was my classroom on how to learn to write. As I said, I never expected I was going to be an author, but life changes. And when I retired and found out, oh, I really do like to write. And so I embarked on this wonderful, wonderful second career of being an author. And I want to thank Reader's Magnet and this wonderful festival of storytellers for allowing me to share my books with you. So I want to give you some background now on the Haunted Lighthouse. This is what we're going to do today. And since I thought it would be kind of fun, I'm going to give you some background and then I'm going to read you an excerpt from it. Now, when I write, the first thing I do, of course, is I decide what kind of story I want to tell. With these, it's adventure, and I decide on the setting. And with this, it's Sanibel Island, Florida. And if any of you recall, and I'm sure you do remember, that Hurricane Ian really swept through and destroyed an awful lot of Sanibel Island. We've been going here since 1978. My parents owned a condo there, and we would visit every April. And my children grew up there, and now our grandchildren come there, and we absolutely love Sanibel Island. So we look forward to the day when it will be restored to the way that we really remember it, because we love it. So I did some research. That's the second thing I normally do. I decide on the setting. I already have my characters, so my grandchildren, and I decide on the setting, and then I decide that I'm going to research. So I researched the history of Sanibel Island and found out all about the pirate history of Florida. Now, in Tampa Bay, where I live, I'm in the Tampa Bay area in a town called Palm Harbor, and we have the Gasparilla Festival, which takes place at the end of January in Tampa Bay. There's a big pirate ship comes in and it takes over the city, all these pirates. And I found out that it goes back to the pirates of Gasparilla. And the pirates roamed the Gulf of Mexico. They roamed San Carlos Bay. They kept captives on an island called Captiva, which is right near Sanibel Island. And so I learned all about these. So I based my stories around the possibility that they had hidden golden doubloons underneath the Sanibel Lighthouse. And I invented a tunnel under there with walls where they could have hidden these doubloons. And the reason it's called haunted is because it's got such a history. It goes back into the late 1800s when it was declared, a lighthouse and started its light for the very first time. It's now a historical landmark. And luckily for us, it was not completely destroyed in Hurricane Ian. And the historic building around it was, unfortunately, but the lighthouse is still there and will still be burning for all of us. So I built my story around modern day pirates. And in this story, the cousins are going to Sanibel Island with their parents It's April, and they have all rented a house. It's the two families, and they've all rented a house, which is a beautiful two-story house with a wraparound porch right on San Carlos Bay, not far from the lighthouse and the fishing pier. And they are going to be staying there for 2 weeks. So when they arrive, they decide they're going to explore, and the four cousins take off on their bikes and they go towards the lighthouse. There's a little dirt road that leads to the lighthouse, and on that road, they meet an old gentleman sitting on a bench near the lighthouse. His name is Mac. He's repairing fishing nets. He becomes very close to the four cousins. His relatives, his ancestors, used to be lighthouse keepers. Now, the Sanibel Lighthouse is taken care of now by the Coast Guard. But he stays there and he watches over it because he feels that his family always did this. And so they are going to be, the children are going to be learning a lot about the lighthouse and its history from Mac, who becomes an integral part of this story. So it's the very first night. They are there. And they've been playing Hearts, which is a card game, which my father loved. And so it's their great grandfather. And so my sons in this story teach them how to play hearts, and they love it. So they do this, and then they all decide that they're going to go to bed at night. They're going to have a peaceful night's sleep. They open their windows, the wind is blowing in through the curtains, and they decide they're all going to bed. So I would like all of you to imagine a very peaceful night. The moon is shining on the waters. It's just silent with a million stars in the sky. And the parents are asleep. The two boys, Harrison and Parker, have their own room, which is decorated in all kinds of, pirate memorabilia. The girls, Kate and Emma, have their own bedroom, which is pastel colors. It's beautiful. And their dog Bella is laying down on the carpet sleeping, as well as Penny, their dog, is in the boys' room. And so they all are going to sleep. So I am going to go ahead and I'm going to start reading this. So keep in mind, this is the beginning of the great adventure. So everyone's asleep. Everyone except Emma, who has that great gift of intuition. Emma lay awake as a premonition was coming over her. She didn't like this at all. I would like all of you to close your eyes and just listen. She remembered what had happened at Canyon Camp last summer, when she had felt that someone was watching them. Well, she didn't feel that way now, but she knew that something was coming. Something was going to happen. They would all think she was imagining things again. But she sensed that a new adventure was just around the corner, and there would be danger. She was very uneasy about what was to come. She looked down at Bella, sleeping peacefully on the floor beside her bed. She wished that she could feel peace instead of danger. Emma was afraid, and Emma had a right to be. Harrison had climbed beneath the quilt covering his bed, and he thanked God for the wonderful day, and he asked blessings on his parents, grandparents, cousins, and his uncle and aunt. He asked God to take care of Penny and Bella. He prayed that everyone would have a safe and fun time. Parker was already asleep in his twin bed, with Penny on the floor next to him, snoring contentedly. Not a care in the world was bothering either of them. Harrison was feeling very comfortable. He had no idea that just down the hall, his cousin Emma was having one of her wide-awake nightmares of what lay ahead for all of them. As he gazed out the window, he could see the full moon shining brightly. The sky was ablaze with a million stars. What a peaceful sight! This was his last thought as he closed his eyes for a peaceful night's sleep. Emma also saw the full moon, and she forced herself to breathe deeply and to go to sleep. She tried to dream of Peter Pan flying in the window with Wendy and taking her away to the island of lost boys. Really, Emma thought she just had too much imagination. This was her final thought as she drifted off to sleep. The clock on the end table read 3 a.m. Emma woke with a start and sat up. She rubbed her eyes and turned toward the window. The pale green shears were silently blowing in the night breeze, and the hooting of an owl could be heard in a nearby tree. Still, Emma sensed that something was wrong. Bella was sleeping peacefully on the rug beside her bed, and Kate was quiet and undisturbed. What was wrong with her? Why did she always have to be the one to hear or see something? Emma got out of bed and tiptoed to the window. The bay was like a sea of glass, with barely a ripple in sight. The water sparkled from the rays of the perfectly glowing moon. Emma leaned into the bay window with her nose against the screen. She looked to the right, toward the lighthouse. She could barely make out the lighthouse over the top of the palms. The light on the top was shining, but as she looked through the breaks in the Australian pines, there were points of light moving down the beach in the direction of the lighthouse. Emma thought that they could be flashlights or lanterns. What were they doing there in the middle of the night? So strange. Were they fishing this early in the morning? Her curiosity got the best of her. This was a mystery to solve. Emma made her way downstairs and found her dad's binoculars in a drawer by the kitchen sink. Going back to her room, she used the binoculars to try and look toward the fishing pier. It was too difficult to see much of anything, as the trees surrounding the house obscured her view. Emma decided that if she wanted a good look, she needed to go outside and walk out on the long dock in front of the house. I suppose I'm really foolish to do this, but something is not right. Someone might be in trouble and they might need help, Emma said out loud. Emma knew that she would never be able to sleep if she didn't discover what was going on. I should wake Kate. No, she will be mad at me and only say, "There you go again." Emma continued arguing with herself as Bella raised her head and looked at Emma with groggy eyes. Emma put a finger to her lips and patted Bella's head to calm her down. Emma knew what she would do. She would wake Harrison. He was always ready for an adventure and inquisitive like she was. So Emma padded stealthily down the hall and silently entered the boy's bedroom. Penny immediately got up and came to Emma. She scratched Penny under her chin and made her lay back down. Then she went to Harrison and shook him. "What are you doing here, Emma?" Harrison sleepily asked her. "There are strange lights down at the lighthouse. Something is not right, and I saw flashlights on the other side of the fishing pier. It's 3 a.m. What could they be doing there?" Emma reasoned, shaking Harrison and pulling him to a sitting position. "Okay, what do you want me to do?" Harrison was now fully awake. "I want you to come with me and have a look. I have Dad's binoculars. We just have to go out on the dock and get a better view. We can tell Mac about it in the morning. Please come with me," Emma pleaded, as she didn't want to go out in the dark alone. Harrison was already pulling on his sneakers and grabbing a jacket. He thought that he was probably going on a wild goose chase with his adventurous cousin. However, he knew how determined Emma was, and he didn't want her out in the middle of the night by herself. Besides, he respected her intuition. He looked over at Parker, who was sound asleep with Penny at his side. She was his protector, and Harrison knew that she wouldn't leave him. So he quietly followed Emma out of the room and closed the door behind him. Emma stopped momentarily at her room to get her shoes and a sweater. With binoculars in hand, she and Harrison silently went down the winding staircase and out the front door. As the two cousins made their way to the long wooden dock in front of their vacation home, they realized that they would have to walk out to the very end to see the fishing pier and the beach leading to Lighthouse Point. When they reached their target location, Emma raised the binoculars to her eyes and squinted at the scene in the distance. Harrison, there's a boat on the other side of the pier farther down the beach. It looks like there is a long pole with a lantern attached. It's bobbing up and down, so the boat must be anchored just offshore, Emma whispered excitedly. Let me see, Harrison said, taking the binoculars from Emma and making his own observation. We have to get closer. We need to see what's going on. There are dark figures near the boat, Emma exclaimed. So Harrison and Emma left the dock and made their way down the beach. They stopped in front of the resort where they usually stayed each April when they came with Grandma and Grandpa Kay. Emma raised the binoculars and pointed them toward the small craft with the swaying lantern. What she saw sent chills through her. Harrison, there are 3 men, and they are dressed all in black, and they have their hoods up and black stocking masks on. I just know they're doing something wrong, Emma whispered. Let me have the binoculars, Emma. I want to have a look, Harrison said, taking them from her. Harrison peered into the night and saw further evidence of questionable behavior. 2 of the men were carrying shovels, and the third had a large sack slung over his back. They seemed to be making their way toward Lighthouse Point. Emma and Harrison looked at each other and made a decision. We have to go back and tell our parents about this in the morning. We'll let Mac know what we saw, and he'll know what to do. It's not safe for us to be out here now. What if they see us? Harrison said, as he backed up and started to retrace his steps. Emma agreed, as she quickly followed him. Emma caught up with him, grabbing his arm and stopping him. We'll tell Kate and ask her advice. We can tell our parents tomorrow. Oh my goodness, they'll be so mad when they found out that we went out in the middle of the night and put ourselves in possible danger. We'll tell them in the morning, Emma reasoned. Harrison looked at Emma and thought that it was a plan. Emma and Harrison both knew that they had made a mistake in following their investigative spirits. Neither of them wanted to cause their parents to worry. Harrison loved Emma's sense of adventure and fearless spirit, and he knew he would never let her be in danger or go off by herself. He would protect her. In many ways, she brought him out of himself and taught him how to have lots of fun. Emma and Harrison prayed to God to send his angels to guide them. The 2 cousins entered the front door and sneaked upstairs into their beds. So far, so good. They would deal with this new mystery in the morning. Outside, on the fishing pier, was a man dressed in black. He also had binoculars, and they were pointed at 2 small figures trudging up the beach toward the vacation homes hidden behind the thick Australian pines. He had seen them watching the boat and his modern-day pirates. He couldn't believe that they were out there in the middle of the night. He would have to tell Eddie, and he would not like this news. He would not want anything or anyone to ruin their chance to find Gasper's gold doubloons, supposedly hidden beneath the Sanibel Lighthouse. They would need to suspend their search for tonight, just in case the kids woke their parents and told them what they had seen. It was such an unfortunate dilemma that had arisen. Eddie would need to deal with this problem. Carl lowered his binoculars and sighed. He really did like children, and he toyed with the idea of not telling anyone what he had seen. However, his greed took over, and he knew what he had to do. Carl had yet to learn the virtues of kindness and generosity. He didn't realize how wonderful it would be to put others first and himself last. A child would have to show him the way. So, this is the start of this great adventure that they're going to have. And it's going to go into danger for them indeed. Emma's right. For they're going to have a good relationship with Mac. He's going to invite him to his shack in the middle of the swamp near the lighthouse. And they are ending up going to be kidnapped by these pirates. And so you'll see how they end up being saved and how they end up turning their life around, turning the life around of Carl and his friends, Charlie. They're going to end up, even Eddie, who ends up getting caught. They are going to show them a better way. So, how I normally write my books, especially the Four Cousins Mystery Series, which you have just been listening to in the Haunted Lighthouse. There is always going to be a message in the books. Four Cousins always help someone to find a better path in life. And the villains, if you want to call them that, in these books, they're not true villains in the horror movie sense or villains in the Halloween sense. They're people who have lost their way and people who need someone to show them the right path to follow, the path that God really wants all of us to follow, the path of goodness and kindness and joy, the path for others. So this is how I write my Four Cousins Mystery Series. And again, book one is The Ghost of Canyon Camp, which takes place in Yellowstone. Again, as I told you, I always pick places that I have been to because I want the settings to be authentic, and I research all of them. The third book is The Secret of the Broken Arrow Mine, where we return again to the Yellowstone area. And again, Jimmy, who's going to be one of the characters in The Ghost of Canyon Camp, who has his life turned around, will be back again in The Secret of the Broken Arrow Mine, which takes place in the ghost town of Kerwin. The fourth book is The Case of the Mysterious Mansion, the Christmas mystery. For this, I take you to Asheville, North Carolina, where my husband absolutely loved. This is going to be near the Biltmore House, and this again will be full of wonderful savings of Holly Hill, the village, the Christmas village, of the saving of this mansion, Greystone Mansion, when they find hidden treasure that is in the depths of this mansion. So I hope all of you will think of buying the set of the Four Cousins Mysteries and also this beautiful, beautiful story of my family, this historical romance and also mystery, Evermore. They can be purchased either from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or on my website, which is my favorite, a Four Cousins Mystery Series. And if you do order them from my website, I will send you signed copies, and even the Four Cousins will sign them for you. Shipping is free. So I invite you to go on my website, take a look at this, and there's other things besides just the books on there. I do activities. There's Halloween activities because my grandchildren were over last Sunday and we made our annual haunted houses made out of covered milk cartons covered with chocolate frosting and all kinds of Halloween candy. And we have a big Oktoberfest luncheon. So there's those activities and directions on there. And soon there will be Christmas activities on there because we also do the gingerbread houses. There'll be decorating ideas. There's lots of things for you to take a look at on the Four Cousins Mysteries series.com. And there'll also be, of course, the books Evermore and the Four Cousins Mystery Series. And there will be a sequel to Evermore. And the fifth book in the Four Cousins Mystery Series called The Quest for the Cat's Eye Ruby will be out next summer. And I'm getting ready to send that to my publisher. So I'll talk more about that as the week goes on. And I'm also going to take you on a journey of how to be an author and how to create a book. And that's what I did last Friday. And I'm going to be doing that again for all of you because that did raise a lot of questions. I ask all of you to, again, ask me any questions you want. And tomorrow we'll go into more detail on writing books and having that be your new vocation. Again, if you wish to be an author, by all means, think of it. Put your ideas down. Let your imagination run wild and come visit me tomorrow at 3:30 to 4, and I'll be more than happy to start talking to you again about writing books and about how wonderful, wonderful it can be. So I'll see you tomorrow. Until then, have a wonderful Halloween night, and I hope it'll be far more treats than tricks for you. Bye-bye. God bless you.